Hi everyone, so what I'm doing today on the mat is looking at stretching for your shoulders and your upper back. When I did the first video of stretching, post-activity stretching, I concentrated more on the lower body. And this time I'm just including your upper body. Now some of them are very simple and you can do them at any time of the day and just build them into just keeping your shoulders flexible. And some of them are a little more advanced. So particularly when I get down onto the mat and start really opening up my shoulders. So when you stretch, remember stretching comes after workout. So always warm up first before you stretch, and particularly with the upper body. The shoulder joints are ball and socket joints, but they're loose ball and socket joints, and they have a huge complex of muscles around them that stabilize them. But we need for them never to be tight, or we've all heard of frozen shoulder. That's something we absolutely want to avoid. So they need to be mobile, but they need to be safe within that mobility. So that's what we're working on, sort of build strength through the shoulders, but then always stretching, so we maintain the length in the muscle. And that's really important. And now we'll go down to the mat and see what we can do.
Yeah. Just outro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so same thing. Okay, so that's it. That's our little upper body stretching routine. So when you're doing your stretching, you might include that with the lower body. So we don't want to concentrate on one area of the body, because the most important thing is that our bodies stay balanced. We're often, tighter at one side than the other. We're often a little sort of imbalanced. So we want to really keep balanced as much as possible. And that means upper and lower body. It means left and right, back and front. So all sides of us to keep intact. So that's why I've done this extra video on post-activity stretching. There are loads of other things I could do with stretching, but the ones I've included, they've kind of gone from simple, routine ones that you can do to slightly more advanced ones that you can do. Avoid the advanced if you're not ready. As always with these videos, only do what absolutely works for you. Nothing extra. There's no heroes in this stretching routine. It's all about just gradually building up so you, for your body, maintain the ultimate flexibility for you. Hi everybody. So this is a second part, or part 2 of our post-activity stretching routine. It was only when I looked back over my videos that I saw that I concentrated totally on the lower body, which I tend to do myself, because if I'm in the gym, I'm usually working on squats and, sort of deadlifts and that kind of heavy leg work. But upper body, of course, is equally important, if for most of us, maybe probably slightly more important. So I'm going to do a post-activity stretching routine for the upper body today. And we're going to start standing for this one. And if you have, say, a belt, or like I've got a strap here, but you can have a belt, let's say the belt of your dressing gown, or of your coat, or a big long scarf or something like that. And we're going to begin with what are called, and this is probably a little bit more mobility than stretching, but it's their shoulder dislocators. Not that they do that, but that's what we call them. So you're going to take your arms backwards and forwards like that. And the further out you go, the easier it becomes. The narrower you go, the more difficult it becomes. So this is probably even a little bit narrow for me. So we take it back, because I can see I'm going up more on one side than the other. That's because this shoulder, my right shoulder, tends to be tighter than my left because of my sport, which is tennis. And then you take it backwards and forwards, and backwards and forwards. And then just to get all the muscles around your shoulders activated, particularly the stabilizing muscles, which are called the rotator cuff muscles, that stabilize your shoulder joint, because it's quite a flexible joint. So we do need to have all of those muscles, their integrity maintained. So I would take the strap in front of me, about shoulder width apart, so you can see what I'm doing there, and at my shoulder level, and I'm just going to pull it apart. So it doesn't matter, there's a little bit of give now in my band, but if there's no give, it doesn't matter, just put a bit of pressure on it and just take it apart. And then with that pressure applied, then take it up and take it down. So what I'm activating is this whole complex of muscles on the outside. So the deltoids then, the med delt here as well, of course, but also the rotator cuff muscles. And I would just do that a couple of times. And then one more time, up and down. And then I don't need the strap anymore. So the rest of it I'm going to do, you can do it either kneeling or sitting. I'm just going to kneel in yoga terms, this is called hero's pose. So I'm going to sit, if you can't sit on and sometimes knees don't like this, mine seem to be fine with it, it doesn't seem to bother them. But if it bothers your knees, just sitting in a chair will work for this as well. So take my arms out at shoulder level, and again I'm still mobilizing. So I'm going to turn my hands up, and turn them back, and turn them up, and turn them back, and turn them up, and turn them back. And then I've kind of activated most of what I'm looking for. But just in case I haven't, I'm going to take my arms up and pull them down. And I'm concentrating here on taking my shoulder blades together as I come down. So if I show you from the side, I'm going to take up, and I'm going to come down. I'll maybe show you from the back even. So when I come up, and then I come down. So I'm opening up the front of my shoulders, and then coming back to face you again. We'll continue. Some very simple ones first. So I'm going to take my arm across my shoulder, and I'm going to either put my other arm below the elbow joint or above the elbow joint. And I'm just opening up the back of my shoulder there on my right. And then taking the other one across, so take it across at shoulder level, holding it to the front here, or just below. And then always rotating, so rotating back. And I would just get my elbows involved here as well, and then rotating forward. And then I'm going to take my elbows into it as well. And then I'll take my arm up, palm to the back of my shoulders, so just behind my head, elbow up straight. Hold on to the top of your elbow with your other hand, and you can apply as much or as little as you want here. And then release, and of course we always do the other side, and then take it back again, and then take both hands down, and then bring your arms out in front of you, interlace your fingers, and just press your hands away and tuck your chin to your chest. And you're opening up all of the upper back, so rounding through your upper back, taking your shoulders forward. Then doing the opposite of that, so taking your hands behind you. And we've done this in one of the previous videos, so I'm going to turn first to the side to show you. So you take your hands behind you and you interlace your fingers, but you press your palms together and then take your palms away with the elbows straight. So I'll show you from the back. So you're interlacing your fingers, but you're not leaving your palms apart. So the first part of this is bring your palms together, then straighten your elbows, and then lift your hands away from your body. So this is right into the front of your shoulder complex. So really paying attention to that. And eventually we get to the stage where we can do something like a reverse namaste. So in yoga, I'll show you how to do this. In yoga, we take the hands here. This is called namaste, where your thumbs are to your sternum. But if we want to do that in reverse, and it takes quite a bit of shoulder mobility to do that, you take your hands behind you, you interplace the palms together, and you take your shoulders back. So our shoulders give us the ability to do that. But it's something we might aim for in the future in terms of shoulder mobility. And then rolling your shoulders, and then rolling them in the opposite direction. I have one more stretch to do, and we're going to do this lying on your tummy. So if you watch first, and I'll demonstrate, and then we might do it together then. So we're going to take this in stages. So I'll explain as we go through it. So you can take stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or stage 4, depending on what kind of mobility you've got in your shoulders. And I'm going to demonstrate quite clearly that one of my shoulders is much tighter than the other. Your dominant hand or your dominant shoulder is usually the stiffer one, the tighter one. So this means lying on your tummy. So I'm going to place my left elbow underneath my left shoulder. And remember, I'm always going on about joint alignment. So always elbow underneath your shoulder. And then I'm going to take my right arm out at shoulder level. So I'm going to just move that shoulder away just for a minute to show you. So my right shoulder is quite tight now because we had the interpros at the weekend. So it's tight after that. So if I'm out at shoulder level here, my head of my shoulder is off the mat, which is not where I want it to be. So in order to get the head of my shoulder down onto the mat, I'm going to take my arm down to a 45-degree angle. That's about maybe a little bit less. I can inch it up maybe a little bit more. So this may be enough for you. It's quite a deep opening to the front of the shoulders. But if you feel that you can do a little more with that, I want you to place your left hand into the mat and just roll your body over. So your left leg comes behind you, and then you can take your left arm up and wrap it around your body. So the side of your head stays on the mat. And then to come out of that, you just roll back over. Now showing you from the other side, and you'll be able to hear me better probably because I'll be facing the camera. So left shoulder for me should be much easier. It is, yeah, go straight down. The head of the shoulder goes straight onto the mat. So with my right hand then, if this may be enough, okay, it may be enough for you, arm out at shoulder level or down at 45-degree angle. If this is enough, just stay here and let the shoulder open. If you want a little more, then place your right palm into the mat, swing your body around, take your right, so that I'm just going to keep my head up for a minute to talk to you. So you take your right foot behind you, and that opens up your hips then as well. And then I would take my temple to the mat, I would take my right arm up and wrap my right arm behind. So my shoulders are completely open here, right and left. So left more than right here in this position. Okay, so the further back you take your right leg, then the more open you get through your right hip as well. So it's a combination of really nice things to do with your shoulders. This is a deep, deep shoulder opener. And then take your right palm back and then swing your body around. And then always, after this, I would come into what we call in yoga child's pose. So it's sit up, take my bottom to my heels, use that as my guideline, and then I would take my body forward. So it doesn't matter about the rest of your body. In yoga, we would come down, forward down to the mat, walking your hands forward. But if that's not available to you, then just make fists out of your hands and let your body stretch. I'm going to take you into a yoga stretch for your shoulders now. So this one is called, in yoga we call it puppy dog pose. And I was thinking there the other day that I might do a little more yoga with you in future. These have not been yoga focused, but we might do a couple of yoga flows in the future if anybody thinks they might like that. So when we're in our yoga position, so I want you, this is called a cat-cow position. So we use this to warm up our back. So we do inhale, head and sit bones up, exhale, round through your spine. And this is shoulder mobility work too. Inhale to lift up and exhale around through your spine. And then take your spine back to neutral. So I'm completely stacked in my joints here, elbows and shoulders and wrists in line, hips over knees. And I'm going to do what we call thread the needle. So take your weight, keep your weight in both knees and take your weight into your left hand and then lift your right arm up. And then thread your right arm through underneath your left and take your forehead again, well, the side of your forehead, side of your head to the mat. And then you can lift your left arm up and wrap it around you. So it's a little like what we were doing earlier, kind of the reverse of that. And then palm to the mat to lift up, right hand to the mat, then lift your left arm up and then thread it through. So side of your head on the mat, palm facing up on the shoulder on the mat, and then right arm up and wrap it around behind your body. And you're opening the back of the left shoulder and the front of the right. And then palm to your mat to lift up. and then sink back down onto your heels one more time, just in case anything was going on with your back there. Let's stretch out your back. And I've just got one more pose for us to finish off with, and this is called puppy dog pose in yoga. So what you do is you up on all fours, like we were there a moment ago, and you're going to take your hands forward. So taking your hands forward, and then you take either your chin, or, well, let's say you take your forehead to the mat first to see how that feels. And it's a complete opening for the shoulders. If you want to take that a little deeper, you take your chin to the mat. So your sit bones stay high, your bottom stays up high, and you take your arms away from you, take your chin to the mat, maybe your forehead to the mat, maybe your chin to the mat, and then press back in, and we're back up into hero's pose again. So those little moves are really, really good for your shoulder. So I'd always finish off with some shoulder rotations, and then taking that in the opposite direction. And then maybe just taking your arms out and then just rotating them up and down. So even if you're sitting, just, I don't know, watching TV or something, just stretch your arms out and get a little mobility through your shoulders. And then always ending up with those nice open shoulders, and then taking that in the opposite direction. Okay, that's it. That's just to add on to the stretching routine that we did for our lower body, and this is more concentrated on your upper body. Loads of other things, of course, that we could do with your upper body in terms of stretching, like even basic things, like something as simple as that. So getting underneath your shoulders, or just very, very basic things. Okay, so that's it. So maintaining that kind of stretching routine, but never doing it without, of course, being warm first. So always warming up and then stretching. Okay, so maybe build it into some part of your day. Just keep it as part of a little routine that you might do on a daily basis. So keeping mobility through our upper bodies is so important, because most of us tend to be a little rounded through the front. Sort of concave through the front and convex through the back. And that's something to be avoided. So always just rolling your shoulders up, back and down, even when you're sitting in the car. So when you're driving, you're forward. When you're on your phone, you're forward. So when you're even in the car, just every so often take your shoulders back, because maintaining that structure, maintaining that balance in your body is so, so important. So until next time, I'll see you on the mat.